Good morning, campers. We're going to get started with mental health. That's going to be interesting for some of us because it's going to be like, hey, I know that. That reminds me of someone, but don't say their names. It's not nice. So let's get rolling. All right, so mental health, simply an individual's psychological well-being, how an individual copes with the demands of life. And I realize I'm reading off of the slides, but trust me, you would much rather have me reading off the slides than some of the other guys, because I'm going to go a lot quicker. I'm just going to get to the points and save you some time and effort, hopefully. Anyway, how a person deals and copes with the demands of life. That's their mental health. That's kind of like their status. Mental health disorder is an illness that affects a person's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And you can tell in relation to how they deal with life's challenges and things. So mental health disorders, they fit into a few general categories. There's anxiety disorders, there's mood disorders, eating disorders, conduct disorders, schizophrenia, and then personality disorders. We're going to talk about a few of them real quick here. So anxiety disorders produce an abnormal fear or dread of something of everyday situations. And you probably have all heard the acronym for fear. FEAR. It says, what is it? Fear. I don't know, but basically it means being afraid of something that really doesn't exist. Fear only exists in your head. If we were doing our class project, if we were in class talking about this, I would ask for some illustrations of fears that are not real. Oh, that's right. Fear. Anyway, if you can think of the FEAR acronym, something that's, I know the last two letters appear real, but it's not. Anyway, so anxiety disorders produce abnormal fear or dread from everyday situations. There's generalized anxiety disorders, which means they just kind of, if you fear one thing, then you fear like all things. So let's say you've been bitten by a dog, so now you fear all dogs. That's a generalized anxiety disorder. You've made it bigger than what it really is. Obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, I'm sure you've heard of that. That's where people, they get compulsive about something. They are really, really freaky clean about things, those kind of stuff. Or they have to make sure everything is completely in order or organized. So there's a couple different reasons that people have these different compulsive disorders. Then there's panic disorder, which basically just means, you can kind of have a panic attack or freak out on particular situations. You just don't have the capacity to handle it. Post-traumatic stress disorder, that's where you're dealing with issues, like say someone comes back from war, and they're used to fighting for their life every day. Well, they come back and they're, working at, IHOP. They're not going to probably be challenged for their life every day. And so they deal with situations inappropriately, sometimes. So people are, like I said, they're used to fighting for their life, but now they're, serving waffles. And someone can, let's say someone challenges them and, they're like, go off on them and like want to almost kill them or something. It's just they freak out. They don't really have the capacity to make the transition from a traumatic situation. And it's not just warriors that come back. I mean, you can have been in a car wreck or something like that, and you have to deal with the anxiety, which is what we're talking about, anxiety of a particular type of situation, a post-traumatic stress situation. And then you have phobic disorders, and that's where people are scared of things that really, like spiders. You just have a phobia of spiders. You don't want to have anything to do with spiders. They just freak you out. And it gives you a physical response. It's a mental issue, but it in turn gives you a physical response. Your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate increases, your breathing increases, all that type of stuff. So those are, real situations, but they are, they're anxiety. They're produced in your head. They're fear. But it's abnormal fear. It's not normal stuff that people deal with. All right, let's keep rolling here. Okay, mood disorders. An inappropriate or disproportionate mood changes. And you may have seen that where people just go off, and that's if they do that often, there's an issue, and it may be chemical, You know, it may be a chemical imbalance, and maybe they have too much of one chemical or not enough of another. You know, so they just, you know, somebody say something and it wasn't like a big deal, but they'll just like go off. Teachers do that a lot, and it's lack of coffee is the reason for that. So, but anyway, a mood disorder can affect the ability to navigate every day through life because you can't function. People can't act normal around you because they don't know if you're going to freak out on them or something. And also, it's the most common of all mental disorders. So it is a mental disorder. Kind of interesting, isn't it? All right, moving right along. The different types of mood disorders. There is major depressive disorder. That's where people they just go into a depression. And a lot of times, those are chemical situations or situations where they're dealing with some sort of stress or event that may have happened. But a lot of times, it is a chemical situation, and usually, you know, a doctor can alleviate that with drugs and things like that. I got a text. Bipolar disorder. That's where somebody, you know, hey, they like 1 second they're happy, the next second they're gone. And I don't mean gone, but I mean next second they're just, you know, not happy. They're this complete opposite. And to give you an example, I don't know if you know who Robin Williams was, but he was a very popular comedian, and he just recently killed himself. But he had bipolar disorder. He would be really, really happy and be a really great guy, and then he would go into these really, really deep, dark depressions. And no one knew about that part of his life. So it was such a shock to everyone when he killed himself, but he was in a major depression and he hung himself. So it, you know, it's a real situation and has to be dealt with. And I'm sure, you know, there are a lot of medicines and psychotherapies and things that you go through to get that taken care of. And then there's the other one called SAD. It's the seasonal affective disorder. And it happens a lot of times when people don't see the sun, believe it or not. People get upset. They just kind of get into a depression. It's just like blah. You may have heard the term cabin fever, those types of things. In the fall and in the winter time, you know, especially up north, because they don't get to get out of their house because, you know, there's 8 feet of snow, and they actually get into a disorder, you know, a seasonal affective disorder. It's not something that's permanent, but you know, it's affected by usually just the atmosphere around them. It's just like blah. So that's all we're going to go over to today. I hope you took some notes. This is going to be a typical length of a video that I do, and I think we will just keep clicking along and get through this chapter, and we'll have a test as we get towards the end. All right, thanks.